YouTube test 1, 2, 3. Facebook test 1, 2, 3.
Are we live, Alyssa? Yes, you can speak. It's okay.
You're live.
Is this thing on?
Are we there yet? Hello, and welcome to the 100th episode of the Fuel Hotel Marketing Podcast, live AMA edition. We are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube to all corners of this fair earth. And I am your host, Stuart Butler, joined today with Pete DeMeo.
Hey, everybody.
And who's down there? Jeremy Razook.
What's up?
And Melissa Kavanaugh.
Howdy ho.
And Phil Fariska.
Hey.
And these are your Fueligans that will be with you for the next hour or so as we try to answer your questions. We've already had a lot that was submitted via email and Twitter, which is @FuelTravel. You can submit questions right now live. Alyssa is on the other side of the camera and she is checking those for us. So you can go to Twitter @FuelTravel. You can go onto the YouTube stream or the Facebook stream, whichever you're watching us on, and you can submit questions. And I believe there's a hashtag on Twitter, right? Is it hashtag hotel marketing? Is that what we're using?
Or Fuel AMA.
So hashtag hotel marketing and hashtag Fuel AMA. We're monitoring both of those. So if you have questions you want to submit, have at it. So if you're new to this show, we usually do it as an audio podcast. We very rarely do the live video stream, but today it's our 100th episode, and Pete got really excited about the zeros.
Yay!
Yep, that's Pete's excited face. Jeremy, that's his excited face. He stays like that all the time.
But you know what? In numerology, this is just episode 1.
This is true.
It's episode 1.
Because 1 plus 0 plus 0.
It's like a birthday.
It is. So this is the first one, which is why it's already gone off the rails. So if you haven't listened to us before, we usually start off the show with news-a-roos. So let's do that, Pete. Take it away.
All right. With hotel marketing that cannot lose, now it's time for news-a-roos.
Nice. That's the first time you've ever done that live.
It was. Well, actually, I've done it. True. You're right.
You've done it live to us,
Yes.
but not to the audience.
But not to that person.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you.
All right. So before we all get jibber-jabbering and chatting, can I check, Alyssa, can you ask Cassie what our audio levels are like? Does everyone sound pretty good? So Pete, you say some words.
All right. So I can't wait to talk about this first news-a-roo because it is everything that we need to
All
focus
people
on.
can talk about. Jeremy,
Yes.
can you say some words?
I'm so excited to talk about the Marriott and how many guest records were stolen.
Well, they don't know what the news-a-roo is yet.
Whoa.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Easy.
Did we just lose our one listener?
We did.
Oh, no.
Give them time.
We're
They'll
live,
come back.
everybody.
They will come back. All right, so Jeremy did let the cat out of the bag. So we are going to be talking about the Marriott Starwood data breach that hit the news this week. Who wants to kind of summarize that for us? Does anyone have the article? I think it's been everywhere, so you could pick one of a plethora of articles to talk about.
I'm looking at the one on TechCrunch.
Yep.
And the headline is Marriott says 500 million Starwood guest records stolen in a massive data breach. 500 million.
That's a lot of millions.
It's more people than there are in the United States. And that's what is such a big deal, because this starts getting into the European Union and what we talked about on podcast past, GDPR.
Yeah, they said they're possibly going to lose 4% of their global revenue.
Well, so yeah, the GDPR regulations that apply to anyone that's in a European Union citizen, right? If you breach and you have clients that are in the European Union, the maximum penalty according to those rules is up to 4%. Now, are they going to go the extreme? Possibly. This is the first, because we've heard a lot of data breaches in the US over the last year or two, right? We've had even this week, we had Dunkin' Donuts, we've had Target, we've had a lot, but none of them really have had the footprint in Europe like Marriott Starwood does. So this, I think all eyes are going to be on this particular one. There's going to be a ton of lawsuits, and what happens to this is probably going to be the precedent set forward for what happens moving forward. So
we were talking about this earlier, and it's really curious. So say they do lose 4% of their global revenue. Where does that go? Do we have any idea?
Well, the EU gets it as a fine.
Okay.
I don't know enough about EU politics to say, does that go like to a general fund or?
Right. Does go to the 500
they have a
million
big party.
people?
They have a big party at the European Union.
But, so the GDPR regulations only went into effect earlier this year. And we talked about this it was episode 82 of the podcast.
Right.
That's all about just GDPR. But this is like this is blood in the water. I mean, the EU is going to jump all over this because it's their first time to.
They wanted a poster
case.
child. They have their poster
Holy
child.
moly.
It's right here. And what
And
better
it's
poster
huge.
child to have? Now, if you're a hotel, especially in the U.S., because not all of our listeners, but a lot of the U.S. listeners are in the U.S., a lot of folks that I've spoken to have kind of been blasé about GDPR in general. Now, they're trying to be better about how they deal with their data, but no one's really gone through and followed all the rules that you should be. So this might be a wake-up call, because if precedent is set here, there's going to be a target on the back of this industry. Hotels specifically are going to, a lot of lawyers are going to go after us, just like they are right now for ADA compliance kind of situations. So there could be a lot of lawsuits. Now, this will take a while to get through the court system in Europe, but it's a big deal.
And here's the other thing you can think about too. Marriott.
You said there's no sound on Facebook since the beginning, or it just dropped out? Okay.
So the YouTube people will
I'll
hear
be
what
back. You keep talking.
Okay. The YouTube people can hear this. Facebook people, I don't know sign language. But Marriott learned that during the investigation for this breach, this has been going on since 2014.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I mean, it's incredible that, of the whole data breach where you had 500 million records possibly compromised, 327 million of those records did in fact contain guest name, address, phone number, date of birth, gender, email address,
Passport, all the things.
crazy information.
Yes.
And they can't say if these users' credit card data was also a part of that breach. Typically, that stuff is stored separately. But if this has been going on since 2014, whoever made this intrusion has had a while to get in there and get comfortable and harvest who knows what.
Right. So it begs the question, and we talked about this in our GDPR episode. We know that for legal reasons, when a customer checks in, you need a license or maybe a passport number. But how long do you really need to store that information? Get rid of it when you can, so that you have less issues if something like this were to happen.
Yep. The best way to not have your data breached is to not have the data.
Right. I mean, we have to collect it, but how long do you really have to store it, and where?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what the big question is where do you store it? And I think what Marriott's also going to do, I mean, unfortunately, they're such a big company that the answer is going to be they hold the data.
Right.
But for a lot of independent hoteliers, like probably a lot of people listening to us right now, is other people hold your data. Your PMS company holds your data. Your email marketing team holds your data.
YouTube's totally down.
Oh, YouTube's down too.
Stuart broke it.
Everything is broken, don't you know? Tune back in. Something else. Yeah.
There you go.
So are we still recording stuff?
The URL is wrong on the site on Field Travel.
It is? It wasn't before. Did it just change?
Could you go on Facebook?
Hey everybody. Oh, look, we're back.
Hey, we're back.
Sorry, everybody. I know that was confusing. You thought we disappeared, but we didn't. It was just a feed that was down.
We broke the internet.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So for people who are just tuning in, we've been talking about the Marriott data breach, which has been all the news really today. So we saw it first on TechCrunch, and we talked a whole bunch about that.
Fixed it.
Yay, Stuart fixed the feed. So if you missed everything we said, we're not going to say it again, but we did still record it. So when you download this episode,
We actually did, and I forgot to start the voice recording. So I'm going to get the audio from the YouTube video that's going to have this bit in the middle. So if someone's listening to this in a week's time when we publish it, they're going to be completely confused.
This is why we're so good at hotel marketing, because we suck at broadcast.
Yeah, well, we've only done this twice.
Yeah, that's true.
I would blame, we didn't change anything. I'd blame the software.
Oh, it's definitely software.
It's always the software. So. Probably, you know what? It was probably Marriott's fault.
We got breached. Marriott breached us.
Yeah, but we're back. Did we finish talking about Marriott?
I think we did. I mean, the point is, pay attention to your data. Mm-hmm. Keep the data that you need. Get rid of the data that you don't.
Yep.
And make sure that your tech providers, your PMS companies, email providers, whomever it might be, has
doing the same.
Solid.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks I talk to, especially when they're bringing up GDPR, is I start by asking the question, well, do you know what data you have? Is there somewhere documented? Do you have a diagram of everything you're collecting, where it's stored, where the data flow is coming? So what data is coming in from what systems and what data is going out to what systems? Who has access to your data? You really need to audit that and fully get your arms around it and have it documented and have someone that's designated as that chief data officer that is going to be the one that raises their hand and says, well, I know you want to give this data to this new vendor, but why? Like what is the risk? What's the benefit? And is this something we should really do? But you really should be locking down as much data as you can and just using the stuff you need to run your operation and to target people in an effective way as well.
And if you want to know more about that, go back to our GDPR episode.
Yeah, 82, is that what it was?
That's what he said.
Episode 82.
Yep. So we really did I feel like a good comprehensive job in that episode of breaking down exactly what the regulation says and what it really means. Now, there's still a lot of gray area. There's legislation coming into the U.S. right now in California that looks a lot like GDPR. That's probably going to add some nuances. So we might need to redo that episode at some point. But right now, I think it's really asking yourself, is it your data or is it the customer's data? The answer should always be it's the customer's data. You don't own it. You're just borrowing it from them. And Pete, you've already said about the cell phone. When I give you my cell phone number, that doesn't mean you can go use it however you want, right? I'm loaning it to you for this express purpose of communicating with me.
Right.
I'm not saying you can sell my cell phone to other people, call me in the middle of the night with random information. So when a consumer gives us their data, it's still their data. We're borrowing it with permission. We should use it appropriately. So if you start with that, then I'm getting really distracted. Why is Alyssa climbing under the table?
She's trying to get our, there we go.
So here's the other thing to consider. So as hoteliers, our job is to make our guests feel very comfortable and think of their data as the key to their room. If you're not keeping their email safe, what makes you think that they're going to keep the door to their hotel room safe? You have to create that trust with the guest before they get to the property, because maybe Marriott's got some serious PR.
They do. But do you think it's going to change consumer behavior though? And we were just I was on Lauren Gray's show an hour or so ago this week in hospitality digital marketing. Shout out to Lauren. And we were talking about the trade-off between privacy and convenience, and how most consumers are always going to take the convenient route, even if it means they're giving up a little bit of privacy. So
yeah, I don't think it's going to change.
Are you going to not stay at a Marriott now if it's the most convenient place to stay?
Well, you still bank, and look at all the Bank of America, all the companies that have had data breaches with all your money. Do you think?
Yeah, that list's probably longer now than the ones that haven't.
Yeah.
So go get LifeLock or something. Definitely especially if you stayed at a Marriott or Starwood or had a coffee from a Dunkin' or a donut from a Dunkin' Donuts, or Target or wherever.
If you've bought something,
if you've used money, if you're on the grid, you have a credit card, totally should get LifeLock or something like that.
We have them sponsor us now.
Yeah, brought to you by, no, I don't think we can do that. All right, so let's jump into the episode. This is AMA. They didn't come here to hear us talk about the news. They came here to hear us answer questions that they submitted. We had a bunch before the show. I'm sure we're going to have a bunch coming in during the show. Again, if you want to submit a question, go to Twitter, hashtag FuelAMA or Hotel Marketing, or go to YouTube or go to Facebook where the live streams are, and you can submit them there. We've got Cassie and Alyssa monitoring those, dropping them in front of us on our screens here, and we're going to do our best to jump through as many as we can, and we'll go until we get tired or no one's watching anymore, right? Sounds good? So you want to kick us off, Pete?
Sure. So first question is from Selim, who is at MSIMRE on Twitter, and he had a great question. It's, what is your take on the Focus Wire article, End of Hotel Meta Search? I don't know if you guys have read this article, but it came out on the 30th of October. Mm-hmm. And basically the position of the whole article was, because of the consolidation in the OTA business, there really is no such thing as a true meta search that's going to scan hundreds of sites for the best price for any given hotel. It's either going through Expedia or it's going through Booking Holdings. Or the third place it could come from is the hotel's own website. So because of that, is true meta search dead? And
I think he brings up a valid point. I mean, his point is that they're not selling you on a consumer experience. They're selling you on find the lowest price. Well, you can already do that looking at 2 websites, maybe 3.
Yep. Has it ever been true?
Questionable.
Because really, it's always been a funnel to eventually you're booking at the property.
Yeah,
I mean, you can find better prices here and there, but
a lot of people have always seen it as a bridge technology, right? And I think that's what it is. And I really think we need to delineate what a meta search is between, because there's different types, right? So there's sites like Kayak and Trivago that's pretty much all they do. They're a meta search. But then there's sites like TripAdvisor and Google Hotel Ads, or Google in general, which Hotel Ads has the meta search component as well as the Book Direct component now, just like TripAdvisor has both. But both TripAdvisor and Google are very different than Trivago and Kayak because they're a destination in and of themselves. People start their journey for searching and finding property there already. So I think there's a value to them showing multiple rates from a single property. But do I think that Trivago and Kayak and other meta searches out there that are just meta searches are going to grow their business? Probably not, because I think people are already getting exposed to what they need to. And you look at, tools like TripTease that are enabling individual hotels to put that same kind of data on their own website as well. Look at Trivago, though. They're still talking in their commercials about search over 200 sites for the same rate, right?
200 sites. I love that he took that dig in this article. Like, okay, what hundreds of sites are you checking?
Yeah, but I mean, what it is someone's pushing out their rates through their channel management to Expedia, and it's going to Orbitz and Travelocity and all the hundreds of affiliates that are using the same rate. So there's no value in that, right?
They're checking their own stuff over and over, I guess is what they're saying.
Yeah, it's a joke, right? So, but I don't think the consumer really understands that. I don't think consumer understands that we've got this duopoly of Booking Holdings and an Expedia group that control most of the data, most of the sites.
I really like the portion of this article where he talks about can meta on meta save hotel meta search? And what he's pointing out is it even smart for TripAdvisor to play the GHA game? And clearly it isn't. Their margins are so low. Even if you're playing a volume game, you're still losing money here.
Yeah, TripAdvisor, I think, and we talked about this in last week's episode, I think, or maybe it's the one before, but TripAdvisor's in a little bit of trouble because they've lost their North Star. They're not focused on what made them great initially, which was let's create a great user experience that's helpful to the consumer and figure out how to monetize it afterwards. They've switched that, and now it's how do we make money at the expense of the consumer in a lot of the steps they made. For example, sponsored listings, the sponsor placement at the top, there is no value to that at all for the consumer. As a consumer, that is something that is deceiving at best, right? So if I go to TripAdvisor now and I do a search, my assumption is whatever shows at the top of my search is probably one of the best things I should stay at, one of the best properties to stay at. But now there's no quality control in that because it's just whoever pays the most to get there. That's not valuable to me at all.
They point that out in this too, where it's if you want your OTA or meta search site to survive, you got to do right by the consumer. Give them the best place to stay. It's not all about the best price with you anymore, because there's other places. I mean, Google is going to own where you find your prices pretty much. So do what's great by your consumer and help them find the best place for them, not necessarily lowest price.
Yeah, and then one of the things in this article as well, speaking of Google, is the folks at FocusWire don't think that Google's ever going to become that OTA. But I think one thing that is true is Google's very aware of what the customers want and are constantly playing with the layout, the technology, and the tools that are available to give the customer exactly what they want. They understand what their North Star is. And if the OTAs, and especially TripAdvisor, don't get on board, Google's going to naturally have to gravitate toward that direction.
And to be fair, I mean, Google has a better foothold on this than anybody, because they're the beginning of almost every destination search, flight search, whatever it is. If someone's traveling somewhere, they're starting on Google.
Yeah, and we see now the data we've been talking about the last few weeks, that even to the hotel website, that Google's over 90% of the organic traffic to the website. So we know that's the tool people are definitely using to do their research. But what sites do they land at during that process? I would say that there's Trivagos of the world are very redundant at this point. They're not necessary, especially when you consider that the rate management has gotten a lot better. The tools out there have enabled hotels to do a much better job of creating rate parity across all the channels. So
the article brings that up too. Yep.
So whereas, once you could find a lot more variance between the different channels, that shouldn't happen today. It does still, unfortunately, more than it should, but it's a lot less than it was at one point.
But in those cases, that's when a customer is looking for where the hotel made a mistake versus just
you're
the reality of
trying to game the system or exploit a bad revenue manager. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think something like an Expedia, Booking.com, even TripAdvisor, the only way to really survive in this long term, have some kind of loyalty program where you're source, so people come back and book with you over and over and over rather than elsewhere. I mean, you need some type of loyalty program to bring them back.
Yeah, or you need to do a good job by your guest, right? So we have a lot of clients, especially in repeat destinations, that their reliance on OTAs is less than 10%. And that's very much different than the average in the industry. When we go and find folks, that want to use Fuel's marketing services, typically they're in the 50, 60, 70% range relying on OTAs and would be happy with a 30%, right? So, but the folks that we have that are on 10% or less aren't necessarily doing anything that no one else can do, right? It's not magic. They're just doing right by the consumer. They're focused on the guest experience, making sure that every guest that comes, they're working towards them coming again. When they walk, as soon as they made a booking, really, they're working towards their next booking by making sure they have a great experience. Then they're communicating with them appropriately via the channels that are appropriate. And then their online footprint is the right one. They're on the OTAs with a rate that's the same or a little bit higher than their own website, but then on their website, because you need to be there at the top of the funnel when people are searching broad, you've got to be on these sites. But that doesn't mean consumers want to book there. If you're given an incentive to book on the hotel website, offer them incentives to book direct, whether that's faster Wi-Fi, free parking, a bottle of water, some kind of loyalty points that you can be redeemed for whatever. If you offer those incentives, consumers want to do what's in their interest and they don't want to work hard for it. They would prefer to book on that website. We're making them work, going back to the meta searches. So do we want to sum up? Do we think meta searches are dead?
I don't think it's dead. I think it's consolidation, which is normal in the web. I mean, if you look at from a shopping perspective, everybody went everywhere to find deals. Now everyone goes to Amazon. I mean,
what's Amazon?
It's this little website. They
sell books,
like knickknacks and books and whatnot. Okay. But no, what you see is happening is everyone's consolidating down to basically Expedia, your booking holding type sites, Google, TripAdvisor. So if you, as a hotel, optimize your footprint on each of those platforms, you're going to put yourself in a better position. I think, years ago where it was just here's a rate, there was nothing selling your property
Right.
But now you have the opportunity to basically look at those little microsites and hooks in the water to drive people directly to your site.
That's the goal.
But do your due diligence and make sure your photos are updated, your descriptions are updated. Anything that platform lets you do, do it.
The copy is compelling. Your job is to make them want to stay with you. That on all these channels, right? All the channels, that's the purpose. But then your website's job is to convince them that that's the place to book.
Right.
Once they've already decided. And those folks that I've talked about, and we've got dozens of hotels that are sub 10% reliant on OTAs. Not one of them is on a true meta search. Not one of them uses Trivago or Kayak. It is not necessary in today's landscape. Now, in some destinations, especially in a city, would it help? Maybe. But I think you can get yourself into a situation where you do not need, you can be sub 10% reliant on OTAs and not be on a meta search. That is possible because we've got dozens of examples.
Back to your original question, I don't think it's dead. I think it's dying, and I think they need to change the focus.
Yeah, but which is what they're trying to do, because if you look at Google Hotel Ads, it started as a meta search. It's morphing into an OTA. If you look at TripAdvisor, Trip Connect, it is a meta search, and they tried really, really hard to push Instant Book, which hasn't been successful yet. But I don't think they're going to give up on that. At the end of the day, both Google and TripAdvisor would prefer to be the OTA, because then they're getting bigger margins, they're getting a bigger slice. Because right now, it's, there's a lot of hands in the pie. You've got your Google with the initial click to Expedia, who's taking a percentage, and then ultimately the hotel has to pay a bigger chunk because of that production chain, and then the consumer is ultimately the one that's paying for it.
So hopefully that answers your question. I think we can definitely.
Man, if we answer every question that thoroughly, we might be here a while.
Yeah.
We were last time.
Alyssa, just give us a heads up when we're like 4 hours in, just in case we need to knock it on the head. All right, what's next?
I'll go ahead. So Catherine from Panama City Beach, she says, I manage 9 properties with one single portal website. Do I need individual property websites for each of my resorts?
Yes. Next question.
The answer is yes.
Definitely agree.
Move on.
Well, so let's unpack that a little bit. I mean, I think definitively. So you've got 3 options, right? If you have multiple properties in a single destination, or even in multiple destinations, you can have that portal site, which sounds like they've got right now. You can have each property has its own site, or you can have 2 swipes at it and have the portal site and the individual sites, which I think if we look at most of our management groups that are in a single destination, that's what we recommend, right? Where they've got the portal site, which is operating almost like an OTA for the destination, where you can search across the inventory, but then always an individual property site is going to convert better for brand traffic, for email traffic, for PPC traffic than a portal site ever will, right? So,
yeah, the typical consumer doesn't care about your management group as much as they do about the individual property they're going to stay at.
For sure.
It sends that signal to the guest of this is a standalone business that you are going to be doing business with.
Right.
And I mean, we've seen rankings improve significantly for not only branded searches, but also just destination type searches. So you can optimize for many different things specific to a property on a specific property site than you can on a portal site.
Right.
Just completely raises your search presence.
It does. It's another hook in the water, right?
As long as you have the budget for it. Because I think it always sometimes becomes just like the redheaded stepchild that, we have this portal site, but now we're focused on our individual property sites.
Yeah.
And it can backfire a little bit on you. You need to make sure that you have the budget to create the content that the portal site will still need.
Right. Not just duplicate everything on the site.
Right.
You're right. I think that's a good consideration. It's not just a financial one either. It's a time commitment.
Yep.
You've got to manage it.
Another benefit of that is just owning more SERP real estate. So your search engine result page,
huge.
You're taking up, say, 2 spots in paid, 2 spots in organic, and you're kicking others out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
So I think our recommendation in most cases, if you can, is to have both the portal site and the individual property sites. And once you have that, then I would shift the majority of your marketing efforts, or I should say your advertising efforts, to the individual property sites, because again, they're going to convert better than the portal site. Now, if you have a co-op, like a print piece that's just promoting the destination, maybe send that to the portal site. But like I said, your emails, your pay-per-click, any kind of targeted ads should be driving people directly to the individual property that's relevant to them.
All right.
Cool. We got more questions coming in. Looks like. Let's go to the next one. And again, if you want to submit a question, you can do it on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching, and you can go to Twitter as well and hashtag Fuel AMA or hotel marketing.
Yeah. We ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I'm skipping a few and jumping down to
Okay,
ROI.
just pick 'em.
This is going to confuse us.
We're getting a lot. It's okay.
I'm talking to Pam via Twitter, who asks, how do you measure ROI on Facebook advertising? I love that question because it's so hard to answer.
Yeah, it is, because it depends which ad format you're talking about, right? There's so
Yes.
many options, from promoted posts to lead ads, there's a ton of stuff you can do on Facebook. I'll let you guys handle that, considering that's what you manage for us more.
I mean, I think that all comes back to proper tracking. Knowing who came into your site and what they did from the Facebook ad is how you're going to eventually measure ROI.
Right. And something like ads, it's just putting a value on what is your value of a like and how much are you spending on that, so that you can actually measure something that wouldn't necessarily be trackable. But
Or what's the value of a lead if you're doing lead ads?
Right.
Or
Exactly.
It's not all just revenue booked on your site.
It's tough. I think there was a time 5 or 6 years ago where we didn't have the choice of the types of ad, right? There was pretty much, you could do like ads or the equivalent of promoted posts, but now we have a choice. And I really think you want to be discerning about which ads you run as a hotel and really think about what is the value to you as a business. We all got caught up in the early days of Facebook trying to grow the database, grow the number of likes, because we could just put out a post and reach all those people just like that. But we know that Facebook's done a really, really good job of squeezing us dry in terms of not letting us communicate with our fan base unless we pay them to do so, right? So if you just do an organic post now and you have a 50,000 fan page, you're probably going to only reach 2 to 5% of those at most, right? So the value in having a large list is a lot lower today than it was 5 years ago or even 6 months ago. So I personally don't, for my clients, recommend running like ads anymore unless they're just getting started, just to kind of get the ball rolling. But once you're established, once you've got a few thousand followers, I think your job is to grow that organically, through tools like Flip2, for example, where you get social engagement. I think that's the payoff. I wouldn't spend money to build a list that then you have to pay money to target to again. I just don't think that's, when you run the math and really try to chase down what that's worth, the ROI is tough to track, but it's very small as well compared to a lead ad. And it's going to depend on what kind of lead it is. We've seen examples where folks are selling or giving away iPads or junk, right? That's not relevant. And then they're collecting thousands of email addresses and saying each one's worth $5 or whatever. But then you analyze the performance of those emails and it's garbage. Yeah, it's absolute junk. Those people sign up to win an iPad. They're not engaged with your brand. So when you're doing lead ads, make sure it's relevant. Maybe it's a stay. Maybe it's something that they can get when they're on property. But you got to make it tangible in something that's relevant.
And one thing that we've seen work as a way to grow your fan base organically is have something at your property like a selfie spot where, when someone takes their picture, they want to tag you in it. So, that's going to grow your fan base. They might like your page that way too. So have something that's shareable on property.
Yeah, for sure. And, I love social advertising because of the granularity of the targeting. I think it's great. You really can't get as focused a group of people anywhere else than on Facebook. But you really want to be careful about what your goals are, because they have a lot of ad formats that perform different things. We talked about we talked about promoted posts, talked about lead ads. But if you're trying to get bookings, it's really hard, because you think about what you're trying to do. Someone's on Facebook for a reason, right? They're trying to waste time. They're not or they're trying to be nosy, right? They're procrastinating. It's, they're about to go to sleep, whatever it is. They're not going to Facebook to find a vacation or to even think about going on vacation. So you're interrupting them and competing with against their friends, their families, their exes, their coworkers, and all the noise that they're making. So it's really hard for you to expect to get one message in front of them that then leads to a booking right then. So you've really got to play the long game with Facebook and try to collect leads, inspire people, get them to content that might make them think, and then not just track, does that person come back and book right now, but what do they do over time? This is where multi-touch point, really attribution modeling really comes in handy. I think looking at where did this person first enter my funnel, and then what else did they do in between? Did they then receive emails? Did they then go to search? What did they do before they booked? I think social is an important part of the funnel, but it's not an end of funnel kind of a tool. It's an inspirational, aspirational kind of a thing. So we didn't really answer the question. It's like, how long is a piece of string? I don't know.
It's 3 inches.
How many holes does a straw have?
Oh, it was 3 inches?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, please weigh in on how many holes the straw has.
Go ahead.
It's
Leave a comment.
Tweet at us.
It's mathematically proven to be 1.
Wrong.
It's true. YouTube it.
Okay.
All right, we have another question.
Don't leave us. Don't leave us to go YouTube that right now.
Well, then it's up to us to be more interesting.
Next question. This is a good one. From Missy on Facebook. How can a new property with no track record decide how much to invest in marketing in its first year of operation?
3 inches.
Well, this is, to quote Will Ferrell, this is hard.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
It's a really tough question because everything you're going to be doing at the beginning of your marketing cycle is really awareness. So, Missy, we just talked about measuring ROI on Facebook and that we typically don't recommend like ads. We're recommending like ads because that's the only way right now that you can even get yourself in front of anybody.
Yeah.
You first have to build that.
Advertising as well. That's another thing we typically say. Don't spend a ton of money on display because you're not going to see the return on it. But if you're a brand new property and you just need to make people aware of you, display ads work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even that garbage sponsored position in TripAdvisor is a good option if you're a new property, right? Because you don't have a track record to show on any organic results.
So disregard everything we've previously said for the last 30 minutes.
Well, there's a big difference between launching and maintaining.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the really difference comes from is you have zero email database.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have anything to start with. So it's just trying to figure out exactly how much you should spend. That's a hard question.
Yeah.
Some people say 10% or whatever the number might be, but
it ranges, right? I see properties that are 1 to 5% of their annual revenue is their marketing budget. I've seen people up to 10 to 12%, right? So it depends on your tolerance, and I think it needs to be more aggressive initially. So you've probably done some projections of in terms of the first year of revenue. Take a percentage of that. I think 5 to 10 is probably a good starting point for the first year. But then really think about where you're going to invest that. And the best marketing you can do when you start out is the experience itself. Mm-hmm. The word of mouth power that you're going to generate with the first wave of guests is going to be mission critical to your success. So making sure that the staff are trained, that they're on top of every guest experience, that you're really focused on getting positive reviews and word of mouth, collecting the data from every guest that walks in, asking them to leave a review, asking them to come back, offering incentives to share and come back. Again, I'm going to give another shameless plug to Flip2, using a tool like that to get them to tell their stories and then share with their friends. That's where social really comes in.
Well, you got to be scrappy. I mean, because you, like you say, don't have anything to work with. I think the first thing to figure out how much you should spend is honestly talk to your fellow hoteliers or see what they're doing in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Pete. You got to check out your competitive set. Who are you truly competing against in your area? What are you going to need to do to get out in front of a guest who would typically book with them? I think knowing your competition, you're not going to know how much they spend a lot of times, but knowing where they're advertising and trying to at least replicate that in some way, shape, or form is really important. Another one, you guys were kind of touching on it a bit, but influencer marketing can be great for a brand new hotel as well. So weighing the cost of that, who
It
your
may not cost
influencers
you
might be.
anything but a
It may
stay.
not be. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. What's a
And
free
you-
room if it's not going to be booked in?
Right, you've got empty rooms
Yeah.
just going vacant. So.
And that actually kind of walks right into Missy's next question. If you guys don't care, I'm gonna keep
Well,
reading.
I'll first tell Missy to listen to episode 96, which is the influencer marketing
Yeah.
podcast.
Also, what was the episode where we did how to market on a shoestring budget? Because that one had a lot of ideas for things. You don't have to spend money to market, especially when you're starting out, especially if you're a small property and don't have money.
Episode 58.
So episode 58, I think that's one of our most downloaded episodes because we really went through some just brainstorm ideas of things you can do, cost you very little, but can have dramatic impact, stand out in your competition. So,
And also, now's a perfect time to get your analytics in order. Make sure everything is trackable. Make sure you have it built right from the start, because as Melissa can attest, you're not going to be able to go back and pull old data or add old data to stuff you didn't, or add data to stuff you didn't have to start with. So get that right and be diligent, because that's going to decide where you need to spend tomorrow's dollar.
So Missy points out, she wanted to know how her new property should spend their marketing budget. Here's her differentiator. So we've recently opened a fully eco-sustainable property, generating all of our own energy, gathering and using all rain and wastewater, saving 300,000 liters of water with all composting toilets. I'd like to hear your views on whether or not clients really care about sustainable tourism, and how can it be used for a marketing advantage?
It's another really good question. It's a niche.
It's very much a niche.
So don't go mass market with it. Don't bid on your destination hotels. Bid on ecotourism. Look at things like Airbnb. Look at the different experiences that they offer.
I think the link building aspect of something like that is huge.
Mm-hmm.
You get out there on people who are already writing about eco-friendly hotels. Get involved in that conversation as much as you possibly can. Like Pete said, you could go ahead and bid on ecotourism keywords, but the search volume is typically not there. Not a lot of people.
No relevance, right?
Yeah, not a lot of people care to search it, but when they visit your website and you're promoting that and you're showing that you're making a difference, it makes someone feel good about booking with you. So it's definitely a selling point, but I don't know if it's something you can go attack per se.
I mean, it's great. It's a great content opportunity. I mean, you can become the expert in ecotourism for your destination, and you can show people another way of staying, in that destination in a more sustainable way.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond that, right? Get involved in the community that is an interest, because candidly, most people probably, it's not an important factor when they're deciding, right? It's not going to influence average Joe on the street. So to make that the cornerstone of a mass market campaign, like you said, is probably not going to be effective. But if you lean into it and own it and say, this is who we are and we're going to go all in, go find the communities where that matters, right? People that are into healthy living, into sustainability, go get involved with them, have conversations on Twitter, find the user groups, find the forums, become a voice in those places, become an authority, and then maybe even take it to the next level, so that if you're an expert on this, help other properties that aren't necessarily in your area, but help other properties that are looking to do the same great things. Give them a playbook, tell them how you do it, create content about, I don't know what it means that it's a compostable toilet. It makes me as a layman a little bit nervous. Like, does that have odor issues? Like, what does,
She says no, they're incredible to use.
Right.
No smell.
But average Joe doesn't know that, right? So that's
that's
potentially a turnoff for some people, to a layman like myself. So making sure you turn into it and sell the benefit of that and not the potential non-existent risk of it. But you've got to really win the game through content, I think.
So do you have to show the picture of the composting toilet, Melissa?
Maybe in this case, maybe it's okay to show a toilet.
For those of you that haven't listened to previous episodes, one of Melissa's bugaboos is pictures of toilets on websites.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I just assume that a hotel has a toilet.
But you don't.
I don't need to see it.
I stayed at a hotel. I want to say it was the Hotel Cavendish in London. I think it's around, I forget where it's up near Tottenham Court Road, somewhere up that end. But it's a real old building, great breakfast, really small rooms. And we got there's no bathroom in the room. There's one bathroom on each corridor. Now, it was a cheap hotel at the time. They may have changed now, but we did not expect that. It was an interesting experience. Now, I was in college. I didn't really care at the time, but
if you went with your family right now, I think you'd be kind of upset.
I wouldn't. I don't think I would stay there.
So I think this is a good opportunity for you to create some guest personas and understand who they are, and that probably help you understand where to go, because not people to Phil's point aren't necessarily searching for ecotourism, but people are going to be going to sites and forums and groups about homesteading or off-grid living or whatever that might be.
Yeah,
that's who you want to find, and then you promote your tourism message to them at that point.
Yeah, I mean, if I were reading an article about an area and that were an option for me to stay at a hotel like that, making those strides to be sustainable and eco-friendly, it might influence me to book with them. As long as
it might be a tiebreaker.
Crazy different.
And I think, to the communities that you engage with, I think you can look at stuff that's parallel to sustainability as well. I think there's a good correlation between things like healthy living and wellness and nutrition and, good food and things like that. I think there's audiences there that are already showing a lot of the same inclinations that sustainability has that would be easier to persuade than the mass community, right? So look at people that are into health and fitness and wellness, and
that's where your Facebook advertising could be
really targeted, right?
Targeted,
and that's where your influencer marketing could really pay in, right? Go find foodie kind of bloggers, go find yoga instructors, have them do live streams on Facebook from your property, things like that. I think that's a good niche to really try to focus on.
Hopefully, I helped.
Yeah,
Missy and her compost.
Yeah, let us know. I mean, if we answer one of your questions and it helps in any way, or if we are terrible and you think we're idiots, let us know. Either way, we can take it. We had someone actually leave a review. Do you remember? I told you guys we had a 2-star review.
Oh yeah.
And that they hadn't left an actual message. Like all our other reviews were 5-star except for this one. I think I sent you a screenshot of it, Pete. I don't remember exactly what it said, but apparently, I didn't know this, iTunes in Europe shows different reviews than iTunes in US. So a good friend, Mark at Boostly Hospitality, saw the 2-star review and actually sent me a screenshot of what it said. And the person, I'm paraphrasing, but basically said they tuned in to an episode that was titled AI, and we weren't talking about anything related to AI. All we were doing was spend the first 10 minutes trying to be cooler than each other.
It easily takes me way less than 10 minutes to be cooler than you.
I don't know. Did you see that sweater?
This is a cool sweater. Well, my sweater is awesome. This is to inspire Star Wars related questions. This is true. I think last time I wore Yoda.
No, that
yeah. Oh, gotcha. Now I have this shirt on. I just didn't have this on. So that's, yeah, it was a secret. Is that Lauren and Robert? Is that who it was? Of course it was.
Next one's easy, and this one's right up your alley story. All right, this is our 100th episode. No, it's Aurora. I think I'm saying that right. Sorry if I messed it up. What are our download numbers?
Well, we are in the thousands per episode. I haven't looked recently, but several thousand episodes at this point. Now, we started out, we were happy when we hit 100 per episode. So, yeah, we've grown. Last month was our record downloaded month. I haven't looked at November yet, but I got a suspicion that November might have been October. So,
pat yourself in the back.
Yeah. I had someone email me today as well from the UK, someone that we're having a conversation with, and they said they were speaking at a conference in Europe and they plugged our podcast. They said, you guys should listen to this, the audience of a couple of hundred. So he took all the credit for our recent growth and success.
Awesome. Thanks.
So we'll beat October if we get a couple hundred more downloads, which I think we should be able to do.
Yeah.
So everyone downloaded a lot of times, so that helps.
Yeah. So. This is going to warp it though, because this is going to go out after. This is going to go out in December.
Oh no!
Yeah.
This is a problem.
Yeah. Well, it's fine. I mean, we don't have to be October.
Just go download some of our past episodes that we plugged on the show. We'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone go download 10 episodes right now, and we'll be good to go. All right. What's the next question?
Let's see. Mauricio via LinkedIn asked, what are your thoughts on ClickCease for hotels? I mean, if each hotel in our group has about 1,600 searches per month at $1.07 CPC, and according to stats, I don't know where they came from, a fifth of those are clicked by bots, we would be saving money. However, our web developer says Google already has strategies in place to fight bots. What are your thoughts on this? And what would be a search volume worthy of such a protection? Do they really work?
Yeah, we dabbled with this. It's been a couple of years with these kind of fraud detection things. I agree with their web folks in terms of Google does a really good job now of their fraud detection. They get better all the time. To me, you would have to have tremendous volume to make it worthwhile, because you're not just looking at the ROI that you're making from the, reporting back to Google, hey, these are fraudulent clicks and maybe getting refunded. But it's also the time it's going to take you to do that, right? You're investing that time. And not only is that a cost, but it's also a lost opportunity. Should your time be better spent somewhere else? So we, as a practice, don't do that for our clients. We don't go back to Google and try to claim it back. Now, there are certain tools where we do say, hey, we shouldn't pay you commission on these bookings. It's usually cost per acquisition kind of stuff or percentage-based stuff. But when it's a cost per click and you're paying a few cents, I would say you would have to be Amazon level to really make that worthwhile. If you're an individual property, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, I mean, we see it looking at billing within, say Google Ads, or formerly AdWords. Google credits you back when they detect fraudulent clicks.
Right.
So, every other day you might get an invalid activity credit towards your account. So they are actively monitoring this and refunding when they find the errors. I agree with Stuart. I think you'd have to have ridiculous search volume. I don't have personal experience with ClickCease, but I feel like Google does a pretty darn good job.
Yeah. I think it's about, you have a finite amount of hours in the day. What do you want to focus on? To me, that's not something that is worth your time, because you could be using that time to improve your email strategy, which is going to make you way more money than you're going to save on the cost per clicks. Now where I think you do want to be careful and monitor your expenses on a third-party channel is something like Sojourn, places like that, right, where you're paying a percentage of revenue from their bookings through view through ads, display ads. I think you want to go back to them and compare what they're claiming is theirs versus guest history, and back out guest history. Because if you send them that list of folks that you say had previously booked with me, so you shouldn't take credit for them, they will credit you back for those. Now that, because it's not a cost per click, it's a percentage, and oftentimes about 12% of the revenue. I think that's something worthwhile, because it can be automated. You can do an export straight from your PMS typically and just email them a file and say, back all these people out. So I think that which is going to take you less than 5 minutes and potentially save you hundreds of dollars, that's probably worth it. But I don't think click fraud is something that I would.
And I don't know what something like a ClickCease costs. Like I said, I don't have any.
There's probably a cost for
so
that service on top of your
service,
time.
So
on top
really
of
saving money? I doubt it.
Yeah. I don't know whether, what did they say, a fifth of their clicks are fraudulent?
That's what ClickCease claims is 1 out of every 5 clicks is a bot.
Yeah, they're just wrong.
Yeah.
I mean
it's
Google's
in their
going to
interest
figure
to
that
claim
stuff
that number, right?
Yeah.
It's in their interest.
I mean, years and years ago, there was always issues where, people go and click, and your, tally get increased. But at this point, Google's pretty good.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think, always measure performance advertising as an ROI, and if that's an ROI that's going up and is a tolerable amount, if you can move it 1% or 2% because of click fraud, does it matter? Just make the money you're making, make sure the time you're spending is optimizing the campaigns, and you're going to be doing just fine. Don't sweat it.
All right. So next question is from Stephanie. And she says, if my hotel is in a pretty unknown part of Italy that's not traditionally touristy, what is the most important things I can do to promote the region in conjunction with my hotel to tourists outside of Italy? There's little support in the region for tourism itself, so I feel like I have to do it all on my own. Also, do you have any favorite blogs, books, or websites to learn about hotel marketing, other than your blog, which is awesome? She actually said that. I didn't just stick to
Oh, okay. I thought that was you saying, you should totally listen to the Fuel Hotel Marketing podcast, because it's a great resource.
It is. So, but thank you, Stephanie. So to answer your question, this actually could be a pretty good opportunity, because you can then become the premier site for your entire destination. If no one else is kind of picking up that flag and carrying it forward, creating great content for your destination might be just the thing that's needed to help kind of drive your property.
Yeah, and I would definitely go at it with a personality. You know,
Yeah.
have opinions. Don't make it vanilla like a chamber of commerce would, but really, you know, pick your favorite restaurants, your favorite places to go, the reasons that people should come here. But really, I think it starts by engaging with people that are visiting the area, understanding why are they coming, how did they find you, and really trying to amplify that, because you might find these little pockets of niches where someone has written an article on a blog in America that people have read, and then you find out what type of blogger that was. And that's where we come back to what we were talking about before with influencer marketing. Go find influencers that match that kind of demographic in terms of their target audience, and form partnerships, you know, fly them out and stay with you and show them what it is. You know, get bloggers, YouTubers, Instagrammers to come and visit the property and really start promoting content. Because your point, Pete, I think is true. You've got to create like a hub of content, an authority on the destination, the why to come and what to do and all that fun stuff. But you still got to create demand.
You do,
you know, because if you have the mousetrap created, but no one's searching for it, no one's heard of it, how do they find it? So you've got to create demand. And I think it's repeating what we've already said. So influencer marketing and social word of mouth are the two most powerful things. So any hotel that's not using Flip2 should be using Flip2, because it's the most powerful way of spreading word of mouth. So going and getting that tool embedded in your ecosystem and getting every guest to leave a story and share that and gamify that so that they tell all their friends. That's how things spread virally, and that's how you're going to build awareness.
Stuart, I don't know, right when we started, did you talk about speaking with your guests and asking them how they found you in the first place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you just tune out for a minute?
Yeah, definitely tuned out. I was reading. So
okay.
Yeah, definitely talk to your guests, find out how they found you in the first place. Another thing that we've seen work for somewhat remote areas or areas that are just outside of a tourist destination is day trips from type of articles. So day trips from an area that gets a lot of traffic and a lot of tourist activity. Promote yourself as that alternative or that short drive away type of content.
Yeah, and tap into travel agents, you know, especially younger folks. I'm not going to use the M word, but younger folks tend to be looking for more adventurous vacations, right? They're looking for experiences that are unique. So engaging with travel agents, offering them a spiff, some kind of percentage for the bookings that they help create, because they're talking to people that are coming. Say, I don't know what she didn't say where she is, right? She just said she's
remote part of Italy, unknown part of Italy.
So we, you know, if you're say close to Florence, right, and 2 hours from Florence, for example, but there's a train or there's public transportation. Find out who's sending a lot of people to Florence, what travel agents are booking those, and develop deep relationships with them and try to get them to incentivize people to take a day trip. When I went to Italy when I was in college with my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and we went to Florence, we went to Venice, and then we spent a couple of days in the northern part of the coast, these little villages called Cinque Terre, which no one's really heard of. It's not one of the big cities. But we did that because the travel agent we talked to said, hey, while you're here, it's just a train ride away for a couple of hours. You should totally check this out for a couple of days. And our favorite part of our trip to Italy was Cinque Terre. So we literally did what we're telling you guys to do to get new people.
And I think to what Pete, I believe, mentioned about becoming the dominant property in your area too. I mean, if building that content, I mean, your property is just going to become synonymous with those things to do and those daily getaways or weekend getaways and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you can just build that up, I mean, you'll become the synonymous property and be like, oh.
Yeah. Well, at some point, you kind of have to, because in most cases, everyone loves to think their hotel's fantastic, but they're going to your property to do other stuff, and they also don't want to get rained on at night. So they need a place to sleep. But in your case, you really have to sell the entire experience, more so than a regular property would.
Yeah. So it comes back to what Phil said, because he didn't hear what I said, which is talking to your guests. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. That's a good question. I like that.
I think, Stuart, we have another question specifically for you. This is from Robert Cole.
Is it about bees?
No, it's not. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Wow.
That's a tough one.
I think I'd go for a horse-sized duck because then you can keep your eye on that one thing.
Mhm.
I agree with you on that.
You know, because think about the little dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, right? When they'll swarm you.
The copies.
Yeah, exactly. I think too many little ones would just consume me. So I'd go for the big guy, run between his legs.
Well, here's the thing too: is if it's a duck-sized horse, you only have 2 legs. If it's 100 horse-sized ducks, you're gonna have 400 legs to deal
You
with.
got it the wrong way. You said duck-sized horse, but there would be 100 ducks.
There's one horse-sized duck.
There you go.
So it's a giant.
Two legs.
It's just 2 legs.
Yeah.
Versus
So you could run
400.
straight through the legs, right, and jump up on its back.
And I've been bitten by a horse before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need 100 little horse bites. Those hurt.
Yeah, and horses can kick and bite.
They got 4
and-
legs.
Yeah, but ducks, they pretty much just have the beak, so they'd be pecking at you. So you got one thing to dodge. So totally, I'd go
Like
the
him and his
horse-sized
eyes like
duck.
this.
Yeah.
And then you got a blind duck, and then you can take him out.
Wow. So hopefully
Thanks,
that answered the
Robert.
question. It is Ask Me Anything. So
Yes.
to be fair, Robert, we appreciate
Yes.
that question.
Wow.
Do we have more questions coming in?
We have more questions. I love this one. What are the top vanity metrics that you see hotel managers and owners getting hung up on, and what should they be focusing on instead?
I love that question.
I love that question. My first answer, I have so many answers, but my first one is visits. Visits don't make you money to your website unless they actually do something.
Bounce rate.
Bounce rate also doesn't make you money.
Mhm.
Open rate of email,
Email list size.
yes. Facebook fan numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I can go on and on.
Mm-hmm. Impressions on an ad.
So if you can take whatever your metric is and apply it directly to revenue you've generated, it probably is one that's worth monitoring. If all it does is make you feel good that you have a bigger number than your competitor, it's probably vanity metric.
Vanity.
Yeah, and I think the problem with vanity metrics is it doesn't take into account the quality of the individual metric, right? So, for example, we would all agree that, say, visits to the website, generally speaking, more visits is better than fewer visits, right?
Because if nobody comes to your website's not going to make you any money.
Right. But not every one of those visits is made equal, right? So it could be that I have a site that gets 5 visitors, and all 5 of those are really interested in my property. They're really well educated. They're ready to purchase, and they're all going to book. But you might have a site that has 100 visitors. Only one of them is in that situation where they're ready to book, and the other 99 were coming there because you had some top 10 reasons that Star Wars is the greatest movie of all time article on the site, right? They're not
Or you're giving
interested
away
in
an
the property.
iPad.
Right.
Right.
So, but those 99 people, although they're people coming to the site, they're visits to the site, it's not valuable visits to the site. So I think looking at any one metric out of context is always a vanity metric.
That was going to be my exact point. Thanks for stealing
Sorry.
my thunder.
All right, go ahead. Let's rewind, pretend I didn't say that. All right.
Okay, we're going backwards. Yes, I think every metric needs to be looked at in some other context. It can't just be a flat number. So visits from what? What source did those visits come in? Bounce rate. Bounce rate, it's not a bad metric. It's just looking at it as a whole in no context at all is useless. If people are coming in on a blog post and they read your blog post and they found value at it, and then they left, yes, it was a bounce, but you know what? That person could come back and book from you tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. You know, looking at all these things in context is where the value is.
I'll give you another example. So time on site, right? Your time on site, we would probably agree that the longer someone spends on your site, the more engaged they are, the more likely they are to book. So we would potentially say the longer they spend on your site, the better.
False.
But yeah,
I disagree.
Why?
They could be lost. They could be
Well,
confused.
that's my point, right? That it could be that you're making it hard for them.
Right.
But generally speaking, people use time on site as it's going longer. That's a good thing. They're looking at more pages or something like that. Page views is another one. Page views per visit is another vanity metric, because out of context, it could mean, wow, you're really engaging them, but it could also mean they can't find what they're looking for. So I think you really always got to apply that context. We did an episode. We're going to plug all these episodes so we can break it was 10 metrics that matter, I think is what it was.
That actually matter.
That actually matter.
Episode 22.
So episode 22 really talked about compound metrics, right? So it was a lot of those metrics weren't just single data points, but it was based on something else. So it was in context. And those to me are the metrics that you should be focused on. Did you just click on the article?
Me?
Yeah, click on 22. Like give like two or three of those.
Conversion rate.
What conversion rate of what? You know.
Oh, right. It just links to.
We didn't do show notes, man.
No.
Never mind. So go listen to 22. You'll get a bunch of good ones, but it's always in context, right? So, for example, click-through rate on an email doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, because if people didn't open it, they have zero chance of actually clicking
it.
Right? So looking at opens or clicks to opens is a better measurement of the quality of the content of the email. Right? Because it takes out the lack of quality of the list component. On its own, click-through rate is beholden to the quality of the list. But opens
I hate that about
is
click-through
not.
rate to start with. I feel that everyone calculates that wrong. It should be based on clicks compared to opens.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
That's what I said in that blog post.
Yeah. And then ultimately, the click itself is only as valuable as what they do once they get to the website. You know, ultimately, are they going on to book, or are they consuming the content that you wanted them to consume? Are they actually coming back later on? So I think there aren't individual KPIs that you should be really focused on, but you should create a dashboard of data that in context and in harmony tells a story that is accurate and meaningful to your guest and your business.
Harmony.
That actually
Meaningful. That's Christmas loving spirit.
This is I'm wearing
I
my
like it.
Christmas
Yeah.
sweater. That's why. Is there anything else you want to say on that one, Melissa? I feel like you could rant about it for another 30 minutes.
I probably could, but maybe we should move on.
We're at 1 hour, according to Miss Alyssa, who's
Actually,
now
an
not
hour
under the
and
table
6
anymore.
minutes.
All right.
And when you said yoga instructors, Bryce thought you said yogurt instructors.
Yogurt. Have you ever made yogurt? You need an instructor to do it. It's tough.
We got an Instapot, so we want to try making yogurt. But
Yeah.
it seems like it's going to be easier just to go buy yogurt.
You know.
Yep.
Hey, and you know what? I wouldn't have said yogurt because that's not how I pronounce it. I pronounce it the way my dad always pronounced it. And if you tuned into last week's episode, you would know that today is my dad's birthday, Keith Frank Butler. And he used to say yogurt. So that's what I say,
Wow.
yogurt.
Still
Total
weird.
disrespect.
No, he's
to
not
yours.
watching. He's like 80 odd. He doesn't watch the internet. But you can tell him
Doesn't
happy
watch
birthday.
the internet.
No, he doesn't watch the internet.
Happy birthday, Keith.
He watches old kung fu movies and westerns and darts.
He watches darts.
Oh man, darts is huge in England. Are you
To
kidding me?
watch it?
Moving on.
Quit making fun of Stuart's accent.
My New Zealand accent.
Oh, Scott wants to know via email. I
Mhm.
wonder if you would clarify the different component pieces of Google's hotel marketing, GHA, etc., as I'm not sure which are purely in the realm of the booking engine and which are directly accessible by the property, or are they only accessible for the property via the booking engine?
So she's talking about, I think he's asking, can you as an individual property get on all the different platforms? What are the platforms you can get on?
Right, so-
versus Google Ads, which was AdWords versus GHA.
Right. So GHA, you need your booking engine to be feeding the rates in. On the rest of basically all of the other Google platforms, so search ads, display ads, the Google Display Network, video, YouTube, you as the property can participate in all that, creating all of your own ad copy, like I said, video, imagery. Another big one be Google My Business, making sure that's completely optimized. Plug that episode too. Jeremy did a good one on that, optimizing Google My Business. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, GHA is the only one that needs.
Yeah, and you
booking
typically
engine, right?
need a third party, an intermediary, right? So you
Right.
need the booking engine provider or an agency that has already done the integration for the booking engine you use. So you typically don't get to go in and manage the bids yourself as a property for GHA today, right? I think that will probably over time change, because if you look back at TripAdvisor, it used to be the exact same way. You used to have, and we had clients that used our guest desk booking engine that were on TripAdvisor. They had no way to control anything. And we would actually, we had a,
It was a daily spreadsheet.
yeah, we had to send it to a rep at TripAdvisor and they'd make a change. It was
and you make a
crazy.
change, and then 3 days later, that change will be reflected in the rate.
Yeah, it was crazy. But now you can log into your TripAdvisor portal and manage your bids on Trip Connect, right? But there was a point where we had to switch. We had to make that decision to switch.
91 was that 8 ways hotels.
Episode what now?
91.
And that was the Optimize Your Google My Business episode? Okay. So I think ultimately GHA will probably roll into Google Ads.
I think so. It's what it feels like. That's kind of offhand of what we've been hearing from Google reps. It seems that soon it will become a part of that same Google Ads interface where you can manage it all, like you're currently managing your Google Ads or AdWords, text ads, display. All of that will eventually roll in, but you're still going to need to be feeding the rate.
Right.
So it's still going to require booking.
I think the realignment of everything in the last 6 months or so, where they rebranded AdWords and these other products into one Google Ads system, is an indication of where they're heading with the GHA platform, I think. But it could take a while.
We're speculating.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's based in data that we've gathered from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to get on GHA, which I would definitely recommend, a lot of folks out there can get you on there now. It depends on what booking engine provider you're using, or channel management. Sometimes if your booking engine doesn't and you're using a channel manager like SiteMinder, for example, they can get you on the platform as well. So talk to whoever your provider is. If you run into issues, then we do provide that service through our guest desk booking engine. We can get you on the TripAdvisor and Google Hotel Ads. So just give us a shout at Fuel Travel as well. Plug. That's our first plug of the episode.
That was the first booking engine plug of the episode?
Mm-hmm. Can you believe it? We're over an hour in.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Very humble.
Humble brag. Is that what it is? Cool.
Yeah, humble brag.
All right. We got any more?
Oh, we got more. This one is similar to one that we answered, but I think property in the area. I'm wondering what you suggest as best practices in order to capitalize on our marketing efforts. Do we focus on promoting our property and letting guests put together their own travel activity arrangements, or spend effort creating alliances and packages with local providers in order to ease the travel burden and activity planning? Further, is there any reasonable value in advertising ourselves into these larger markets via AdWords or Facebook marketing?
Yeah, so it's similar, but a little different than the Italy
different
conversation.
Instead, they're close. They're definitely close to touristy destinations, kind of like we touched on with that Italy. But what I think what he was really getting at here is it on the property to try to create an itinerary, or do they start working with local providers to help that activity planning?
It's nice if you're a guest to be able to add an additional service of, let's say they're in, he said on an island. So let's say a dive trip. But you had to be very careful, because every time we've seen hotels try to partner with third parties and fulfill random things, it always turns into a massive pain in the ass for that property, because it was rainy and the dive trip was canceled, and now who's refunding the person for the dive trip that the person didn't go on?
Also, who gets the bad review when it's
right?
Something goes off
It's
the
not
rails?
an experience you can control.
Right. So, and also you don't necessarily want to spend a ton of money promoting. I'm going back to the dive trip example, because you're not making you might make a little spiff on it, but you're not making any money off of that dive trip. And you're basically putting your entire ROAS on somebody wanting to do a dive trip and then wanting to stay at your property and then choosing the dive trip that you actually partner with. There's too many links in that chain, that you should create great content about dive trips. You should link out to people. Maybe you work out some type of affiliate program where if you send traffic to them, you get a cut after the person's booked, but not necessarily to create this whole ecosystem around you managing it.
Yeah, there's always a benefit to relationships in your local area, right? And the more people you know, the more people are going to refer you. It's positive word of mouth and brand awareness. So I definitely think you want to work with those folks, but I agree with Pete in terms of the level to which you work. I don't think you want to get into the package business. A lot of people are trying to get into that now, and I don't think that's how people travel. You know, they travel, they maybe have one or two things that they know they're going to do, but the rest they want to kind of wing. So provide value in the form of content, of choices, in recommendations, but don't get intertwined with the actual transaction, I would say, when it comes to the itineraries. And don't spend a lot of time creating some elaborate itinerary builder tool. People just don't use them. It's not something that I think is worth your effort as an individual property.
If you had a lot of things on property that they could do, and then that kind of makes more sense. But if all of the activities in your area are through third party, I think that's when that makes sense.
Yeah. Then the other part of the question was, should I spend money advertising in those markets, to people looking at those markets? So you were near Honolulu, for example. Would you bid on Honolulu keywords to try to capture people? I don't think that would be cost effective. I think that's a stretch. It's probably paying a high CPC to persuade someone that has an intent to go one way to divert them somewhere else. I think the return is probably not going to be there.
Always be testing.
Yeah. Is it worth testing? Absolutely.
But don't go broad with it. You don't go bidding on hotels in Honolulu if you're not in Honolulu. Right. Day trips from, we're going back to that type of thing. What are you really? Be specific, and you don't want to trick anybody or confuse anybody to think you're something you're not. Yeah. So if it's a day trip from, or if it's places to stay in between destination A and B, if that's what you are, go ahead and try that out. Like he said, test it. See if there's any traction there at all. If there is, go for it. You can dominate it because you're already obviously the dominant property in your area. It may be worth it, but don't go broad. Stick to the very specific long tail type keywords. If you're going on AdWords, like search advertising, for Facebook, I guess the same thing, right?
Maybe targeting. Yeah, you could, because it's cheaper on Facebook.
It's cheaper on Facebook. You can test it out, see what it does for you. But
again, I would focus more on building relationships with travel agents in that scenario, right? The folks that are sending the people to those destinations, work that relationship to try to get them. They're already engaging with a customer. Give them an incentive to push people to you as well. For day trips.
And just the actual providers. The guy who runs the dive boat, make sure you're his favorite person. Because people are going to be booking the dive trip, and then they're going to figure out where they're going to stay. Like we said before, people go to a destination for the destination, and they want to just stay somewhere so they have a place to sleep. So if you become best friends with that dive master, he's going to say, "Oh, you need to stay at this property."
Yeah, buy him a bottle of bourbon for his birthday, and send him a present at Christmas, and really butter them up and work their relationship, because that's going to pay dividends for sure.
All right.
Yeah, so that was a good question. Even though it was similar, I think there was some nuances to it that was good.
You gonna hear another question?
Yeah.
This one is, what are some of your top predictions for 2019? Any major changes or industry shifts?
Who wants to have a stab at that one?
I do.
You don't have to raise your hand.
Sorry.
Fariska, yes, sir.
Thank you. I think voice search is something that we should be paying attention to as it becomes more popular. We're starting to see quite a bit of voice search type queries within our search console, within triggering our search ads and Google ads. Things like schema markup on your site are becoming increasingly important to answer these type of questions. And with the explosion of voice search devices, I mean,
I have 10 Echoes in my house now.
Yeah,
I have 10.
He's using them all.
Yeah, they all get used. I just got a Fire TV Cube. It's the bomb. You should all get one. It was like $50 on Black Friday. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think that's one of those. It hasn't broken into the hotel marketing like it has for other verticals, but I see it becoming more prevalent. Like I said, I'm seeing more and more question type queries show up.
Yeah, you can see if you go to Google, what is it called now? I want to say Webmaster Tool, Search Console. If you go to Search Console and look at your keywords, there's a lot that start with OK Google now. A ton.
Even more specifically, when you're in Google Ads and you do your search terms report and see what's actually triggering your search ads, the searches that come through, it's not necessarily. I see it as people asking their phone a question because it's an OK Google, and then it's pulling up the web page. It's not necessarily your Echo or your Google Home.
For sure.
People are asking their phones questions more so than they ever have in the past. So that type of stuff is I feel like that's.
Have you noticed how people are a little more polite when they use their voice versus type as well? They're using. You see a lot more keywords with please and thank yous in it versus just show me this.
Well, that's the rising influence.
There's also the word show or it's more a question than just if you're searching for Honolulu hotels, if you typed, you wouldn't just say, "Hey Siri, Honolulu hotels." You'd say, "Hey Siri, show me hotels in Honolulu." So it's more conversational. So
that changes the type of queries I feel like are coming up as well. So the things that you're optimizing for, though. When you're looking at search volumes, I feel like it's a little skewed now because where it used to be something like Honolulu hotels, you're seeing now more instances of hotels in Honolulu. Now I know those are semantically relevant; they should be showing the same results, says Google. We know they don't.
Yeah,
we see it. We see it every day in the search engine results page of who's ranking where on the page. Differs when it's something even that similar.
Right. And I think they're getting longer as well. Some of the keywords are getting more specific and granular as well.
In Google, at the Focusrite conference a couple weeks ago, they announced that they're working on launching voice bookings for hotels.
Right.
So, I think you've got to really pay attention to voice.
And Expedia is doing the same thing as well.
So. Yeah. If someone says, okay, Google, book the Marriott in Soho for December.
Tell them not to.
I mean, they said 20% of Google's mobile search is voice.
Yeah.
And they're moving into where you can say, book me this hotel. Mm-hmm. You better be ready for this to be one of the early adopters.
And you really need to think about voice as the same way you think about internet, right? In terms of it's a fundamental shift in consumer behavior. And we're not just talking about an Echo in the house. We're not just talking about how you talk to your phone to find out and book a hotel room. We're not just talking about having an Echo in the hotel room itself to control the thermostat or the lights or whatever. It's fundamentally a shift in how humans interact with technology. And we all talk to devices today more than we did a year ago, and we'll talk to devices more 2 years from now more than we do today. Literally my house right now, I'm getting it to the point I want everything controlled. Like I'm adding bits and bobs all the time, like lights and the TV system, like I said, the thermostat. I want it voice controlled. It's so much more frictionless as to do it that way. It takes me a lot less time to find a show on TV than to scroll through whatever, right? So I fundamentally think we're shifting as a society. So you've got to think about this not just as how does this affect bookings, but how does this affect everything I do as a hotel?
Well, and also how do your customers behave?
Right.
You don't want to make them have to go outside their comfort zone and type on this archaic keyboard when they're used to just asking the computer to do it for them.
Exactly, because guess what? Your competitors, in this case OTAs and Google, are going to be way ahead of you, right? And they're going to get a bigger slice of the new opportunity and market share if you're not on this bandwagon. So I think you need to, we did an episode, Pete, if you want to look it up. We did, is SEO dead? Always voice search killing SEO. And in that, we gave specific examples of things you can do to optimize your website today for voice search.
Wasn't that episode 87?
I love how you pretend like you remember them all, even though you're pulling it up. 80 what? 87?
Yeah.
So yeah, is SEO being killed by voice search? It's very tangible. So that's one perspective. But you've also got to think about it from the perspective of in the hotel room, if all these guests now are used to in their home controlling things with their voice, when they go to a hotel, they expect the same creature comforts. They're not going to want to go back into the dark ages of having to flip a switch or press a button on a thermostat. Over time, I'm not saying this year or next year, but over time, I think the expectation is going to be just like Wi-Fi was. It started out, well, some hotels had it, and then it was paid, and now you don't go places unless it's free Wi-Fi, right? Or it's part of the loyalty program. So I think voice control of the room is going to get to that point. It might take a few years, but it's going to get to that point.
Order me a pizza.
Yeah.
Just to say it to your hotel room.
And we're a ways away, right? We are a ways away from that true interaction. The AI isn't sophisticated enough to really understand, book a hotel for me in New York, and it just do it. Because there's so many considerations. Who am I traveling with? When am I traveling? What kind of budget do I have? Where am I going in New York? There's a lot of things. So I think what we'll see is voice, when I'm booking, is going to become conversational, where it's going to ask me qualifying questions. So I want to book a hotel in New York. Okay, when are you traveling? These are the days. Okay, who are you traveling with? And it's going to get to the point. And then it will remember what I booked last time and build a profile and be smarter each time I do it.
So try it out with your Echo or Google Home, whatever you have at home. It's kind of fun to figure out what you had to ask. In my case, Alexa, because I said, Alexa, I need a hotel room in Atlanta next week.
You just set off everyone listening to this on speaker.
Okay, Google, book me a hotel in Atlanta.
Hey, Siri.
But the point is that do it and see what comes back. Because when I did that, I said the top 4 hotels in Atlanta are.
It's new, right?
Yeah.
It's going to take a while.
So.
Siri, go to fueltravel.com.
Hey, Siri, subscribe to the Fuel Hotel Marketing Podcast. Okay.
Oh, you added it?
Per our discussion from this morning, Stuart, when you use voice control comes the lingering issue of what am I missing? I may know what I want, but perhaps there's something I may want more if exposed to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's basically, can the machine help me make a better decision? And I think voice and AI can really help me get to that point. But it's going to take some time to get there because, I mean, look at pizza, for example, right? I'm assuming you guys know what pizza is, right? Everyone?
Oh, wow.
Have you ever eaten pizza?
No.
It's delicious. You've dabbled with
dabble
pizza.
in pizza.
Have you ever ordered it online or through a mobile app?
Yep.
Have you ever ordered it with your voice?
I haven't.
Me either. Why? I don't know why. I always go to the app, even though I know it's available. And if I try it a couple of times, because I always get the same thing, that's the fear, right? There's a fear there. There's an uncertainty there right now, which is preventing me from.
Well, you have to also be more vested in your pizza service. I'm Domino's, let's say, so I have to have my account, and I got to say, order me my usual or this, and then it's like, do I get the best coupon? I mean,
but that's the thing. There's uncertainty,
thing,
right? In the voice, there's uncertainty. You don't have the control, and we as consumers want to have complete control and certainty, and no doubt. And I think we're missing some of that right now in voice. I think the technology will overcome that. If you knew with 100% certainty that when you say, Alexa, order my usual from Domino's, and that's all you have to say, you get the same pizza. It's going to be here in 30 minutes. It's going to charge your credit card.
Will I have a breathalyzer on my Alexa for that to happen?
Yeah.
Hey, Alexa, I want a pizza.
Yeah.
Hey, Alexa, I want another pizza. And then all of a sudden I got
That's
a
funny.
caravan of cars.
You can add that to Amazon.
That's funny.
This is drunk at Amazon.
We could tell the Misha story there. Do you remember that when
Call
that
Me
happened?
Pizza.
Call Me Pizza. She was drunk one night. Misha used to be on the show, used to be a Fueligan. She might be watching, for all I know, I don't know. But she tried to call pizza one night after a few beverages, and she was saying, call me pizza, call me pizza. And in the morning, she woke up, and Siri was calling her pizza.
Yeah,
that was her new name.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Too funny.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have one more question here from Lauren Gray. It says, question for the group. How do you accurately calculate lifetime value of a guest?
Holy
Dang.
cow.
Thanks,
All
Lauren.
right, Lauren.
And that's the end of the show,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I honestly
I don't think anybody is.
I don't think anyone's
I
doing
don't
it.
think you should anymore either.
accurately.
With right what we started talking about at the top of the show, right? So what data do you collect? How long do you keep it?
I don't know. To say you shouldn't measure lifetime value, I don't know.
Because you're going to
That's-
pay more for that first guest.
Yeah, always, right? And
Yeah.
you're willing to dabble in channels. I'm willing to take an Expedia guest that's a first-time guest more than, someone that stayed with me before. I'm happy to take them from Expedia, knowing that I can get their data and remarket to them and get them as a direct guest. So there's certain channels which I'll accept a lower ROI from to get the first-time guest, knowing that I can have them stay.
And I think, Matt, it's your hotel. I mean, what is the profitability of a single guest?
Yeah.
That really is what's going to
Yeah,
factor that in,
because
because-
it's property. Geez, I mean, it's someone who keeps renewing in one of those.
Right, and that's why you can't just say, "Oh, blanket value, it's this," because in extended stay, we have a client who has guests who have literally been at the property for over 12 years.
Right.
The
What's
value of
lifetime?
one of those guests is
Whatever they spent to get that guest in the door
Was
has
worth it.
been blown out of the water
Yeah.
and completely screws those kind of metrics up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but the same as they probably can't. They don't know the origin of that guest because it was 12 years ago and they probably wouldn't track it.
Oh,
So I think,
definitely
to Lauren's, I think it's kind of a trick question, which is a great question from Lauren. But I think always be tracking, which is Melissa's new replacement of always be testing from the last couple of
not.
episodes.
ABT can fit a lot of things.
Yeah, but you always be tracking everything. But the challenge you're going to have is a lot of your legacy infrastructure, which is where the data, portfolio data is. I mean, how many times, Pete, have you seen one of our clients that's using one of these old school PMSs where they don't even match folios, right? So Pete could have stayed 4 times at the property and it's 4 different people according to the software. Yep. So there isn't really a golden record that tracks that. And the challenge you're going to have over time is how people book is going to be different, because 10 years ago, people probably were booking over the phone, and then they were probably booking on the website, and then they were probably booking on the mobile website, and then
Now
they
they're
were probably
booking on
booking on the mobile
voice.
app, and then they're probably booking on Echo.
well.
Right?
That's why you
So-
got to have a great PMS and data platform that can
Right.
make sure Stuart
That
from
it's
10
the
years
same
ago is
person.
Stuart from
Right,
tomorrow.
that you have a golden record of the guest, right? Which is what we're trying to do. And this is the second shameless plug of the episode with our new CRM platform, our Fuel Mail platform, right? Where we're trying to aggregate data from the PMS, from the website, from the mobile app, from email into a single golden record so that we can measure lifetime value. But the data is incomplete. But I would say, to Lauren's point, that looking at return on investment from the myopic view of what is my ROI for this booking from this campaign is just, I think it's a little limiting, right? You've got to consider what type of property you are, because if you're a property in, say, the Caribbean, people probably are not going to come there, or Hawaii, people are probably not going to come there every year, right? It might be a once every 5-10 year kind of a thing, or once in a lifetime kind of a trip. But if you're in a Panama City Beach or a Myrtle Beach, they might be coming back every year. So your lifetime value opportunity can be a lot higher if you're in one of those repeat destinations. Same with New York, right? New York, I don't know a lot of people that necessarily stay at the same hotel every time they go. Depends why they're going, what conference it is, where it is, who they're traveling with. There's more choice. So I might stay at a hotel in New York once every 3 years versus Myrtle Beach once every year. So I think there's some context to it, but it does come down to data at the end of the day. Can you measure it, number one? And if you can't, how do you work towards that? Choosing the right software vendors, I think, is an important part of that.
We got another one. We got time?
Sure. What time is it?
Hour and a half in.
All right. Yeah, we'll probably take 1 or 2 more, and then we'll wrap it up.
I like this one since it's timely. What does the team think about the proliferation of Black Friday and Cyber Monday in the travel industry?
It makes
I
bubbles.
think it's getting played out. I think people are becoming a little immune to it.
I somewhat disagree based on the numbers I just saw from what we just did.
Let me restate that. I think that there's a cap on it.
I don't disagree with that at all.
So, Melissa,
People are still going to purchase, but I don't think you can get exponentially 100% more revenue every year from it.
well, the growth is gone, right?
Right,
Because
yeah.
it really started as a phenomenon, I would say 5 years ago-ish, 6 maybe, where people really started beginning to do it.
Right.
And we've seen exponential growth.
Up until about 2 years
Until
ago,
about 2 years
and
ago,
it has plateaued since then.
But it was arbitrage. It was new. It was
Sure.
exciting, right? And
Your
really,
favorite
honestly, in retail, Black Friday wasn't as big as it is today until the last decade either. I mean, it's always kind of been a thing, but it wasn't quite as bananas, people beating the crap out of each other at Walmart, right?
But
until consumerism has changed. Media has exploded it. It is an opportunity to sell, and people are primed to spend. So I think you would be crazy as a hotelier not to take advantage of it. Don't
But it
expect
also-
continued growth, but it is valuable.
I mean, it creates a giant bubble of bookings, which from an analytics perspective, then you got to compare that to, times in the past, which are they new bookings or are you just shifting the booking window?
Yeah.
But if
there's
you are
not-
shifting the booking window, that's good because now you
okay.
have basically you said, okay, from an occupancy perspective,
Mhm.
this is my benchmark. And now I can start managing and yielding my rate up because I know I already have, my summer taken care of to an extent.
I'm a fan of the concept. I think you're right, Melissa, in terms of it's played out in terms of getting close to its peak.
Yeah.
But I don't think it has to be singly reserved for just Black Friday. I've seen clients that have created their own events, Prime Day kind of thing, right? Where you beginning of February is another day, or end of February is what some folks do, where it's prior to when people typically have booked, but people are beginning to plan. But I think if you're going to have this strategy where you're going to go in really aggressive with Black Friday or with your own event, which I think you should create 2 or 3 of those a year, that should be your lowest rate of the year. You should not ever, ever, ever go under that because you're just going to erode the impact of it. Yeah. And you shouldn't go so low that it hurts you because the benefit of it is getting heads in the books early. So you've got a better opportunity to yield your rates up. So you should always be trying to get occupancy further and further out, even though that's against the trend. People tend to book closer and closer. So we're trying to buck that trend. But if you then start saying, I'm not full this weekend, and that rate starts coming back down to below that, I think that's where you're going to get in trouble.
You got to be disciplined for sure.
Yeah.
If your revenue manager is not disciplined, it can be very dangerous.
Yeah, and you've got to accept the fact that you might go with unsold inventory with this strategy, but long term, you're going to hold a higher rate and you're going to make more profit doing that. Sometimes the best thing you can do as a rate manager is to hold your rate and let that room go unsold. Sometimes, and I don't think many people have that discipline, and more people need it. So for that reason, I really like the phenomenon. As a consumer, I love it. I spent a ton of money. I bought all my Christmas stuff on Black Friday and Cyber Monday this weekend.
Yeah, like I told my family about it over Thanksgiving. And it's like, you should see some of the deals that my clients are running for Black Friday. And I'm like, I didn't know hotels did that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like
there's opportunity still.
There's some people who
it's not the same
don't know it's a thing. But I think that's more to your point is people think of this as a retail shopping, a Christmas shopping, not booking their vacation or a hotel stay in the future. Running your own event, reaching your existing audience and promoting your own event with the best sale of the year at a different time than Black Friday where you're competing with the rest of the retail world, it may be better off.
Well, I don't think it's mutually exclusive though, right? Because I think people are primed to spend money on Black Friday weekend and Cyber Monday, right? And it's extended. I don't know if you saw that. Amazon started the Monday before, and people are still running through the Friday after Cyber Monday. So it's become a 2-week event. Interestingly, this doesn't exist outside of America, right? Because it's a Thanksgiving related thing. So in Europe, that phenomena doesn't happen, but people are still kind of booking at different paces. And people are trying. We eat turkey at Christmas. But there are other events, to your point, like there's, I want to say it's the end of January is National Book Your Vacation Day in the U.S.,
of course,
which was something that, I don't know, some tourism folks tried to create years ago, but no one really got behind. But as an industry, that would be especially for summer destination type places, to get people to book in January would be way better than waiting till March, April, May.
Say you're a winter vacation destination.
Christmas
like
in July.
Yeah. Start
So
booking
you
in
can.
July.
My point is, you can create your own events and make them an event, and it's different than just sending out an email blast saying 40% off. It's teasing people. It's making it exclusive. It's selling the hype and the excitement and guaranteeing that these are the lowest rates you're going to get and building up that anticipation and expectation. The first time you do that, if you're trying to do it on your own, it's not probably going to do the best, but that doesn't mean you should get discouraged and not do it, because the first time some of our clients did Cyber Monday, it didn't do the best. But you know what? Each year they did it, there were more and more people jumped on the bandwagon. And now, I mean, we have clients that make literally millions of dollars on that 1 or 2 day weekend. It's crazy. And they have to really staff their call centers for those weekends as well. We can do one more.
I don't know if we can physically do that, but let's see. Any more questions?
Are we done?
We have one from Lauren, but we're having trouble deciphering it.
All right. Lauren speaks Klingon, I think. So,
yeah. I'll read it, and maybe you can decipher it.
Okay.
If you could reduce the steps a guest would use before booking, what?
Starts out, right.
Yeah. What questions do those 3 questions answer for that to happen?
What, is he saying that there's 3 questions that a guest asks before booking?
Well, I think I'm deciphering a little bit, but I think it's about. Yeah, I mean, he's listening, right? He can clarify if he wants. What I think he's trying to say is, we know as marketers or hoteliers what the potential hurdles, roadblocks, questions, fears, uncertainties are in the booking process. So which of those can we anticipate and take care of? And we talk a lot on the show about friction, right? And friction can be reduced in 2 ways. You can either remove roadblocks, stuff that's in their way. An example of that would be on mobile devices, making it easy for them to fill out forms. So when they start typing in an address, predict what the address is and auto-populate the city-state zip, right? So they don't have to type as much. It could be scanning the credit card instead of having to type in the number. And I don't know if you've seen this. I just saw it for the first time in the last couple of weeks when I was ordering stuff on my phone over Cyber Weekend. But the iPhone now in Safari does predictive filling in. So when you select a form field, at the bottom, when you start typing, it will do auto suggest as you're typing. Before you type anything, if it's first name, it will know what your first name is and suggest it. Your address, it will any addresses that you have, it will suggest it.
And it automatically is in the next field as soon as you select.
Yeah, and you you just literally click the field, click the response. So you're not typing at all. And it now even does it with credit card, where it's not part of the website. It's native to Safari, where if you click in a credit card field, you can now click scan the credit card.
That's not new. They've had that for at least a year or so.
I've never seen it.
I
use it all the time.
See, I only really order on Amazon. So this is the first time I went off and ordered on Walmart and Target and other stuff. But that reduces friction, right? So that, not necessarily answering the question of what questions they have, but reducing friction is moving stuff out of the way. So for example, they might want to know how close you are to the airport, or they might want to know how close you are to the beach. So answering those questions, I think, throughout the funnel contextually makes a lot of sense. The other way to reduce friction is to nudge people, to shove them through the funnel by using psychology that we talked about a lot on the show, social proof, fear of missing out, urgency, stuff like that, and trying to push people.
Showing that they're getting the best rate possible.
Yeah, best rate guarantee.
As close to what they expected.
Hurry.
Yeah.
Only
Urgency.
2 units left. 300 people have booked this in the last 4 days. Those kind of tactics can really work effectively at reducing friction. But I think for most consumers, you can guess what their consideration points are going to be. It's going to be price, it's going to be location, it's going to be amenities, it's going to be the quality of the product. So you want to make sure you answer any questions related to those, and there's no ambiguity. And I think you can get people through the conversion funnel a bit quicker. I don't know if that answered the question or not. Hey, all right. Well, I'm sure we can follow up. If that wasn't the question, Lauren, you can shoot us an email and we'll answer on the next episode, which will be 101.
Ooh.
Which will be 2.
That's right.
Yep.
In numerology. right? Hey, Pete.
Hey.
It would be remiss of me on a live show if I were not to ask you. I know I've had a lot of people ask me, how are the bees?
So the bees are all still dead.
Okay.
But
no resurrection.
Well, no, because now we're heading into the winter. There's really no reason to do anything with
Kill them again.
Yeah, so they're already dead. So what I'm doing,
Do they hibernate during the winter? Like
they come down to a small size.
like they shrink like Ant-Man?
Exactly. That's exactly what they do. No, but like,
do they have to wear a suit like Ant-Man?
They do. They have little goggles and everything. It's
Okay,
cute.
awesome.
But no, what they do is they kind of go down to the minimum size hive needed based on the supplies that they have.
So they just
to keep
like
warm.
kick out the worker bees that they don't need?
Well, they actually, the queen stopped laying eggs, so she's
they
not
die
producing new.
How long
ones.
does a bee live?
I think like a couple weeks or so.
What?
Yeah.
That's it?
Really?
Did you make that up?
We had a bee debate the other day, and I don't think you're
We
here for
did
it.
have a bee debate.
So, is the queen the only female in the hive?
No.
There are a bunch of females.
Every bee that you see outside the
Okay.
hive is a female.
Do they reproduce?
No. The queen is the only one that actually can reproduce.
Right. So the male bees are the ones that are in the hive.
Male bees are in the
Worker
hive.
bees live up to 7 weeks during the summer season.
There you go.
7 weeks.
Wow.
Pete.
Mhm.
On the other hand, worker
Unless
bees
Pete's
that are
keeping
born
them.
during
Yeah.
the autumn season live up to 6 months.
If Pete's
Because they
keeping
stay
them, that's
inside
like
the
2
hive.
days. So.
Yeah, I killed them all. But no, so I've figured out where I can buy newbies in the springtime.
Mhm.
So then come
Newbies.
springtime, we'll get newbies.
Newbies. Awesome.
Newbies.
Well, thank you for tuning in to this riveting conversation about bees and hotel marketing. Hopefully you found it valuable. If this is your first time ever finding the Fuel Hotel Marketing Podcast, you can go and subscribe. We've got 99 prior episodes. We referenced a lot of them today. Lots and lots of cool information. You can go get that on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play or anywhere you get podcasts. Spotify now. Yeah, just search for Fuel Hotel Marketing Podcast. You can get us there. Go subscribe. We publish typically about every other week, sometimes once weekly if there's a lot of news going on. But if you have questions that we didn't get to answer today for a future episode, you can always hit us up on Twitter at Fuel Travel. You can also email us info@fueltravel.com, and we typically will try to answer those on the show as well. So before we go, Pete, where can they find you on the web?
They can find me on Twitter at PDimaio, PDIMAIO.
It's a nice wave.
Thank you.
Jeremy, where can they find you?
They can find me at Jeremy Razook, RAZOOK on Twitter.
You're really on Twitter now?
It is on Twitter. I
It's-
figured
Wow.
for some reason I forgot.
You were just on Tumblr,
Yeah.
and now you're on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I'm
You're in-
expanding.
you
like
could
the
work in
opposite
digital
millennial.
marketing now.
Do what?
You could work in digital marketing now that you understand social media.
Well,
Yeah,
allow
that's
it.
true.
Yeah. Melissa, where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter at MA Kavanaugh, MAKAVANAGH.
And Phil.
You can find me on Twitter at PForiska, PFORISKA.
And Alyssa's over there. Thank you for recording the show. And she clapped herself. That's nice. You can find me at Stuart Butler. You can find us collectively at Fuel Travel. There's not going to be notes to this because I don't really want to sit there and type out all the
Well, yeah, the
questions and
questions.
answers. Yeah, we can put the questions in, but then you have to listen back if you want to read.
No, they get to listen back.
Here,
They don't
oh,
have
yeah,
to.
you-
just
that's
put the time of the episode that they can fast forward to get the answer.
Yeah, that sounds like work. I don't know.
I forgot you don't do that.
Yeah, it's I've already got a lot of work because I got to figure out because I didn't start my GarageBand. I've got to go and
Garage.
strip this out
GarageBand.
from the video anyway and hope
He
the
means
audio is
Garage
good.
Band American.
I do. Y'all get. So happy birthday, Dad! And until next
Happy
time,
birthday.
you've been watching the Fuel Hotel Marketing Podcast. And Melissa, can you click the screen one and the